is the Dallas Cowboys Pepsi Postgame Show. Pepsi, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here's Zach Wolchuk and Bryan Broaddus.
11 seconds left. Bennett in the gun. Four-man rush. They flush him out. He's chased. Throws from the sideline into the end zone. Touchdown! Miller Forrestall has tied the game with 4 seconds left.
It took until that point, 4 seconds remaining after 4 interceptions in what could have been 5 from Stetson Bennett. He leads a 13-play, 70-yard drive that took 2:48 off the clock. And then it was what ended up being a game-winning extra point from Joshua Carty that give the LA Rams a 13-12 preseason win over the Cowboys. Cowboys now 0-1 in the preseason. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, who is joining me from Oxnard, California. They did have the 4 interceptions. Stetson Bennett rallies. He's able to make that game-winning drive. Cowboys were really only to get 1 field goal off of those 4 interceptions today. Didn't do much off of the turnovers, and Brandon Butter Aubrey, of course, going 4 of 5. He missed a 65-yard attempt. That one just going a little bit wide. I think he might have had the leg for that one, though. Just quite not on target. But Bryan Broaddus, your initial thoughts after a 13-12 Cowboys loss in L.A.?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, though, that they did not get the win at the end. And you mentioned the chance for the extra interception, but Josh Butler gets called, for holding there. And so now you're in a situation where instead of being off the field and finishing the game, now you have to play the drive. And that's something that, that we've seen during the regular season with the Cowboys. There were times where all of a sudden you find a way to get a third down stop, or you're going to get off the field, and next thing you know, you have a penalty. And that's unfortunate. But, there was some positive things in this game. I think when we sit down and watch the tape tomorrow morning, and that's always something we like to say, but in this case, it's very, very true. When you start to learn about the offense and defensive linemen, and, some guys were playing some different combinations, it looked like there were a couple of times where they had some holes to run the ball. I'm going to be excited to see, how that was evolving. Mike McCarthy, the boot, the waggle game with Trey Lance, it seems like they wanted to kind of move him around a little bit throwing the ball. Some of the throws he made from the pocket were pretty good. And then other times there you see the receivers have to work for the ball. So there's a lot to kind of unpack from this game, and, the opportunity to do that with the film study and stuff will be really, really beneficial for all of us.
Yeah, you mentioned Trey Lance. Obviously, Trey getting the majority of the snaps in this one. Cooper Rush had the opening drive, and then it was Trey Lance's game. He goes 25 of 41, 188 yards in this one, added 44 yards on the ground. Certainly showcased the athleticism. For me, Bryan, I wonder if you agree. I think his best drive was his last one. And then, unfortunately, there were a couple of drops that didn't allow that drive to be sustained. But he ended up making, I think, some of his best throws, especially that out for a first down, in that final drive.
Yeah, unfortunately, Racey McMath didn't help him at all with a couple of back-to-back drops. And, they could have found a way to maybe, keep the drive going, kill some clock, maybe finish that thing off with a touchdown. But I think you're absolutely right. I think there's, Mike McCarthy talked about it with Brad Sham today, and, what are you looking for with Trey Lance? And you're looking for the consistency. And we'll all say that Trey Lance hasn't played a lot of football, and there's things mechanically that Trey Lance could do better with his, with his body position, his footwork. There's decision making. There's been some times down in the red zone here at some of these practices where, he hasn't made a quick enough decision. They had, some fourth down throws, that he had to make today that, he just held the football probably a little bit too long. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was somebody when we watched the tape, maybe somebody got open, or maybe, hey, the Rams just did a great job of covering that. But, it was kind of a little bit of a hit and miss game for Trey. He got a big opportunity. He's going to continue to get more opportunities. So as Brad and Babe were talking about, he needs to find a way to grow from these and, and not make the same mistakes that we found in this football game.
No doubt, and we'll talk with our Cowboys insider Bobby Belt. We'll hear from Brad Sham as the postgame show rolls on. Also want to hear from you, 877-881-1053. That's 877-881-1053 on the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys, brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. You just cheered for America's team on the field. Now see them on the reels. Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat, now at a casino near you. Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. And do you have a gambling problem? Please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus. I think the rookie class is always one that I'm looking forward to watching. And this, I think, was a great standout and a continuation from what we saw in the practice fields for Marshawn Nealand. You saw Nealand getting involved, especially in the running game early. I thought he was brilliant, overshone, flashed when he was on the field. Right. And then Guyton didn't get the start, but I thought when he came in, had a pretty darn good drive.
Yeah, there were questions about whether he was going to play or not. And, we were hunting that down in the pregame, and then all of a sudden we got word that he is going to play. There were several snaps where you see him coming off the football, and the movement that he was able to get was impressive. There were some questions about his ability as a run blocker.
Yeah.
And, here's a guy who played a lot of two-point stance at Oklahoma, was used to the pass sets, quick games, things like that. But, man, he showed some power, the ability to wall off, the ability to seal. Those were a couple of different times where I was going, man, that's pretty impressive. Flat back, get into your guy, get some movement, and then the ball coming behind him, a couple of different times. I was impressed by, for a guy that has not practiced a whole lot since you guys left us here in Oxnard, he showed up. I'm sure his conditioning wasn't great, with the chest, Jerry Jones talking about pneumonia situation. Yeah, and if you can't breathe, you can't play. And so I thought, when he got the opportunity, I thought he showed there was, if you take the number of plays he had, say he had 12 plays, I'm going to tell you he probably had 11 pluses. If you're saying plus minus on each play, I'm going to say he probably 11 of 12 plays, he had a plus play for you as that tackle. So, good for him for getting his feet wet. He's done a great job of showing up when he's had opportunities to play.
Well, and something that was key of note, obviously you're always looking to get out of these preseason games healthy.
Yeah.
Our buddy Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com, did say Chuma Edoga was in a boot as he walked off the field at the end of the game. So that could mean even more of an increased role for Tyler Guyton, the rookie.
Yeah, Chuma Edoga has dealt with, and Chuma Edoga has not been terrible. I know you're talking to a guy right now that's thrown his share of dirt on Chuma Edoga, but there were times where Chuma Edoga's practiced pretty well, and then, in the Rams scrimmage the other day, he wasn't bad when they were running the football. He's dealing with some lower back tightness, some back spasms, and now it sounds like potentially a toe injury is what we're looking at here. So that will probably take him out of the mix, and then, we'll see what they do. Guyton should get all the work anyway, and then kind of figure out, where you're at behind Guyton. I don't necessarily think that Earl Bostic is that answer. I've seen some decent things from Josh Ball. I don't know if Josh Ball goes back to playing tackle. He's been playing guard. So maybe they'll have to do some shuffling around. Awesome Richards was playing some tackle, some guard today. So maybe they're going to have to do a little shuffling around to make up for Edoga not going to be at practice here probably this week.
Big storyline coming into the season, of course, was the center. Brock Hoffman got the start. Cooper Beebe slides in there, also got some reps at guard. But a big thing for me with Cooper, it's, the snaps were a little bit inconsistent, at least when we got to be out there for camp. I know you've been able to stay and watch him grow and get better. You were talking pregame. The technique during the one-on-one drills with the Rams was there for Cooper Beebe. But no bad snaps today. I consider that a win.
No, absolutely. And Cooper Beebe, he did get work at center. He got some work at guard as well, while Dakota Shipley was playing a little bit some center there. You kind of had a combination. Watching the Cards practice on Friday, that was something that they were going to do. That if one was playing center, the other was probably going to play some guard. So, good for Beebe to get in there, get some work. Man, they had their hands full, inside though with this Tyler Davis. from Clemson. He was a guy that was that number 90 was kind of a load inside for them to have to deal with. So, hey, that's it's good. If you get work against quality players, it only makes you a little bit better.
And then the running game, a mix of backs. It was Malik Davis, Rico Dowdle, Snoop Connor, Nathaniel Pete, all getting in there. Davis led the way with 18 yards rushing on 8 carries, only had 2.3 yards a carry. Do you think anybody really – I mean, Rico Dowdle's probably the leader out of that clubhouse when it comes to competing with Zeke, but anything in any way, shape, or form stand out when it came to the running game?
Well, there was a couple of times where they actually popped to some decent runs. I mean, you could see and I know – that Dowdle, I think he had a run of 9. That was a good-looking play where they hit it early in that game. And he was on the pitch count as well from talking to people going into that game. I think Rico Dowdle is your best back, myself. When you start to talk about the toughness, the explosiveness, the ability to kind of find the hole, attack the hole, with Zeke, it's probably a little bit more slower than what we've seen in the past. I mean, Zeke he's been in this league a long time, and they're doing their best to kind of keep him fresh. He ran pretty well though in the scrimmage against the Rams, so that gave me a little bit of hope. But if you said right now, Brian, they're going to play Zeke. But man, I think the best back you got is clearly Dowdle. The question is, can he stay healthy enough? That's always going to be his MO. Is he going to be healthy enough if you put him on the roster?
Absolutely. Official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Let's head out to line 2. We've got James in Dallas calling in. James, what's going on, man?
Oh, Wooly Bully,
How
the
you doing?
guru, Bryan Broaddus. It is an honor. We have Cowboys football today. The chills are running down my spine. The hairs are raising up on the back of my neck. I want to get straight to it. All right, guys, D-line. We saw some things there. I want to get you guys here. Who keeps their playbook and who has to turn it in? I'll take it offline. Go Cowboys.
Thank you very much, James. Brian, I know, and we're going to say this a lot throughout the entire season, after these games, this is just initial, hey, this is our thoughts. But when it comes to trench play, you really will have to go back and study the film on that of who really had a great game and who didn't.
You know what? I thought really early in the game, and I've been very critical of Mozzie Smith, but I thought there was some reps. And trust me, I was focused in on Mozzie in this game because I wanted to see, a couple different times he got off the ball, a couple of different times he was square. Maybe it's a 2-3 yard run, but Mozzie wasn't getting turned, wasn't getting walked off the ball. I kind of felt like that Carl Davis a couple of different times showed up pretty well where he was able to play off a block and then get down the line of scrimmage and kind of wad things up a little bit for, the defensive line. Now, I'll say this, though. They really didn't get anything from Albert Huggins today that made me feel. Now, Albert Huggins at the Falcons was a 3 technique, and we'll see how much work was he playing as a 1. Was it all 3 work? Is it a fact that maybe he hasn't, he's had a few practices and now he's getting thrown into games? Not making excuses for the guy. They threw him out there. He's a veteran player. They needed him to go make some plays. They needed him to show that he could be that guy. But I kind of felt like, though, that he was struggling a little bit inside. Usually what you have is Fehoko is playing inside. He looked like he was playing some right in.
He did.
So
got one pressure. Yeah,
they're trying to kind of find, I'll say this as well. If you look at Muhammad, coming in, here they have you watch Muhammad with the Colts, the really good get off. If he has to stop and start again, maybe a little bit of problems. Kind of looking forward to seeing how many quality rushes did he have in this game. But I was looking at like the Mozzies early in this game, and I was expecting, okay, a lot of reps, gonna get tired, stance is gonna be bad, the effort's gonna be poor. Didn't get that feeling from him. And I'm not doing it in a way to make up to Mozzie, but I was okay with some of the snaps that he did have. I guarantee he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't getting turned and washed and those types of things. And I like I say, if that's the case of the snaps he had, and we'll look at all that tape, we really do. and we'll talk about it on our show on 105.3 The Fan, the G-Bag Nation. We'll break it down in Krusty's Corner. And I'll tell you, hey, when I talked about him in the pregame, or the postgame, kind of saw this. But in actuality, this is what he is. He might be better than even what I thought and when we get to that tape area.
Yeah, the play that he had where he sniffed out the screen, the pursuit and hustle to the football, that was great to see.
Very early,
from
early
him.
in the game. Yeah.
But you're right. I thought the one defensive lineman that really, really struggled was Albert Huggins, and he's number 68. Yeah. I think there might have been some fans that where you see the 8 and they thought that was Mozzie, who wears 58. Huggins was in the game a lot longer than Mozzie was. Mozzie got, I think it was the first 3 series maybe, and then he was out. Maybe I would have liked to see some more snaps there. But
and I know people were kind of talking about that. Where's Mozzie? Isn't Mozzie like Trey Lance? I don't know who tweeted that out. It might have been David Hellman or somebody like that. Well, here you have Trey Lance, and he's getting all this work. Why isn't Mozzie not getting this work as well? So, there's questions on that, and hopefully against the Raiders he does get some more work. But initially, my thoughts weren't of a disaster for Mozzie Smith. My thoughts were of, okay, there were some things that maybe we could work on here that we could he's a guy that when he's not confident, I think he's a bad football player, but I think he showed a little confidence getting off the football and dealing with some of the blocks he had to deal with.
The Rams 13, the Cowboys 12. Let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds for station ID across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
This is the exclusive home of Dallas Cowboys football. KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas, Fort Worth. Let's go, Cowboys.
An Odyssey station.
Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. We will catch up with Bobby Belt, our Cowboys insider, on the other side. We'll also talk with the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Sham, coming up a little bit later on in the show. It was the Rams with a game-winning drive in the final seconds as Stetson Bennet, after 4 interceptions, takes L.A. down the field. They score the go-ahead touchdown with 4 seconds remaining. Extra point was good. 13-12. Rams got the victory. I will also hear more from you. 877-881-1053. The number to call, the number to text, 877-881-1053. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance is a dirty fuel system. It can
Is America's original craft vodka. WinStar World Casino and Resort. Proud to be the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Sleep Number. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Bennett with play action all day. Throws it over the middle. Picked off at the 30-yard line by Julius Wood. The Cowboys have claimed their third interception of the day.
That was one of four. Cowboys with 4 interceptions on Stetson Bennet. It started with Marquise Bell. Eric Scott Jr. got one, and then there was your third right there as the Cowboys defense continuing the turnover party. Morganson, by the way, had the other interception for the Cowboys. Thought maybe, hey, my gosh, Dan Quinn. Was Dan Quinn the mastermind behind all these interceptions? Nope. Zim's defense getting it done, too, in the secondary. By the way, Marquise Bell, Brian, outstanding today. Led your team in tackles with 9, had that interception. Maybe the unsung hero of last year's defense with what he was asked to do, playing out of position. And I think we're trying to figure out maybe who's going to start opposite Malik Hooker. I think Donovan Wilson's had himself a strong camp, but Marquise Bell is a player that they're going to have. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field.
Bell should have had an interception the first series of the game, I believe, too. I mean, he had one when they were down there. The first field goal they made, he had a chance to maybe get that interception right there and kill the drive for the Rams. But the question about Bell was going to be never a question about playing down in the box, never a question about reading what's happening. Never a question about making tackles. How well was he going to cover? Mm-hmm. Was he going to be able to see from depth what is happening in front of him? And hey, let's be honest, Stetson Bennett was not accurate throwing the football today. And Marquise Bell. But what does Marquise Bell do? Puts himself in position to make plays. Hey, I'm in coverage, boom, ball's right there. Hey, I got to make a tackle, boom, I'm right there. So the questions you have is, can Marquise Bell play in coverage? Mm-hmm. That's going to be the trick for him. Wilson's been playing well.
Yes.
And the thing with Wilson that you got to worry about is hair on fire player coming down, bad angle, missed tackle. But when he's in position, he will knock you unconscious as a player. How well is he going to cover? The safety opposite Hooker is going to have, whoever starts is going to be the one, I think, that can cover, is smart, and tackles well. But right now it looks like that's Donovan Wilson's spot. But, Bell has had some days out here where he hasn't been involved in coverage. This kid might be a gamer.
Yeah.
He might be just a gamer that I'm just okay at practice. But then you throw him in a game and everything kind of works out for him.
Light goes on. Absolutely. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, 877-881-1053. The number to call, the number to text after a 13-12 Rams win over the Cowboys. I see Jim, Mark, and Hakeem. We will get to you momentarily, don't you worry. But let's welcome in our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt. Bobby, how are you? Your initial thoughts after preseason game number 1?
It's good to have football back. I mean, it's... Even when it is preseason ball and you don't have all the starters and people are working things out and maybe some of the coverages and everything else are a little vanilla, it's good to have something to react to and something to see at game speed. And I do think there was a lot good and bad that you can take out of what you saw today. Like we said during the pregame show when Eric was in here, there are good context clues. There are good indicators for what's to come in the season for a lot of these guys that I think you can find, and we certainly got a lot of that today.
Now, I know you were doing a little star up, star down ahead of the morning show, which you can check out 6 to 10, Sean and RJ on the flagship 105.3 The Fan. Do you have some players in mind that you think helped their case or maybe hurt their case today?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to look specifically at roster position, right? So, star up, it was great to see DeMarvion Overshown do what he did. It's great to see Tyler Guyton do what he did. But those guys are on the roster. So if you're talking to me about guys who I think helped or hurt their case today, some of the guys, if I were to go stock up on 53-man roster, I think Jalen Cropper was good today, and he's had a lot of building for him. Cropper had it was like a slant pass where Lance was completely off target with him, and Cropper grabbed it and just snatched it out of the air and kept going. I thought that was good. I loved that Brian had mentioned Carl Davis. I think that Davis showed good power, good contact balance in the trenches, wasn't, knocked off his feet very much, was active. Malik Davis, who they like a lot, who's had a good camp and is kind of building. I think you saw there was some of the all-around, just jack-of-all-trades stuff about him. He doesn't have anything that's, super elite about him, but he's just solid kind of across the board. Yeah. And I think you saw some of that today with what he did in the run game, what he did in the pass game. Some of the guys that were stocked down, Racey McMath can't have back-to-back drops.
No.
Especially one of them that just killed Trey Lance, who's trying to build some confidence.
Possibly took a touchdown off the board.
Yeah. Look, as competitive as this DB room is, I'm glad he got the interception. Eric Scott Jr. didn't have a great first half.
He had the penalty. He got beat on. He missed a tackle on what would have it resulted in a first down and a huge chunk play. Did circle back with the interception to your point, but you're right, Bobby.
Yeah, Ryan Flournoy. I don't think, again, in a competitive receiver room, I don't think he had a great day. And then again, I'm glad Brian had mentioned it because we were talking about it here during the game. You and I kicking it around. Albert Huggins was getting driven off the ball way too easily. I mean, just pushed 8 yards back easy. And so Huggins is a guy who's here and trying to compete and secure a spot, not so great. On the flip side of that, I think in the second half, I love, and I know Brian does too because I've heard him talk about this, I love how active Justin Rogers is.
Yes.
I love how his motor runs hot. There's an intensity there and a willingness in run defense that can cover over a lot of sins. Look, you gotta be a good player at the end of the day. You gotta have good technique. But if your motor runs hot, you are going to be in position to make a lot of plays that other guys aren't because they're not willing to play at that intensity level. And I think you continue to see that carry over from practices into the game today for Justin Rogers.
Yeah, that
Bobby,
would be the first defensive tackle they found in the 7th round from Auburn. Shout out to Jay Ratliff.
Yeah, that is true. Bobby, it's hard to really evaluate what was going on with the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Guyton, but I kind of noticed some other guys, and you talk about maybe some roster bubble. How do you see Josh Ball on this? Is he a bubble guy? Is he a 10th guy? Where do you see him in relation to what's going on with this offensive line?
So when we got into camp, I felt like you have your guys who are on the bubble, then you have your guys who are on the roster, and if they were to slip, then they would slide onto the bubble. And then you have guys that are completely off the roster when you enter training camp and could play their way into bubble talk. Ball, to me, was a guy at this point of his career was off. Like, he was off the roster when we started camp.
Yeah, he will let's go. I were kind of like, man, this is not getting any better for either one of these.
Yeah, and well, let's go. It doesn't help. Like, Christy's reporting in the middle of the game. She's like, yeah, Matt Willetsko's having to get an IV right now.
Yeah.
He's having some issues. And so Ball was a guy who I had off. Didn't notice him a ton today. When we were out at training camp, again, the way I notice him, Brian, is the way that you always tell us you notice offensive linemen in a bad way, and it's those sleeves. And it's trying to cover up the size. But Ball's a guy that I've used.
Let's go. That's why he had to get the IV, 90-degree day there in L.A.
I'll tell you who really impressed me, and maybe I need to go back and watch the tape and see. I'm going to see something different because I saw one person complain about him on Twitter.
Yeah.
I know Sham said he thought he struggled, but the first 2 drives, I was actively noticing Awesome Richards doing things where it was like Awesome Richards pulled, like on the first carry, Awesome Richards pulled to the left side, got out in front, made a block. There were a couple different times I saw him anchor really well in pass protection. I thought Awesome Richards, when I was keyed in on him, looked really good. Now, there may have been some bad reps in between, and we'll get the tape and we'll tell you, take a closer look at it. But I thought Awesome Richards, when I was watching him on the first 2 drives, I thought he was impressive.
Yeah, I'm kind of these offensive linemen. I'm trying to figure out like maybe 7, 8, 9, that, those 3 guys, because, I for the life of me, I didn't see anything from Nathan Thomas I didn't even see. Was he in action today?
I believe he was inactive today.
Yeah, well, that I was kind of wondering, what was going on there. If all, I was kind of trying to hunt him up, but I'm trying to get these offensive linemen straight in my mind, and I know that Ball and again, another guy that I'm with you. Let's go. I had those guys kind of off this team, but if they're going to need some of these backup tackle, potentially guard, and if Adoga is out, who's going to be the backup left tackle? I guess that turns back into Awesome Richards.
Yeah, who was at guard today.
Right.
Yeah,
they'll tell you
they'll tell you that they think he's a better guard. So do you try and find another tackle to put out there and let Awesome Richards continue to play guard?
Yeah, I think that's the question I was going to get to with both of you. Is tackle now, when you're kind of hunting other rosters and maybe who ends up being cut, or maybe if you've got a surplus and maybe Fajoko's not fitting your scheme, or Eric Scott Jr. is not fitting your scheme anymore and you're calling, it's hard to trade for offensive linemen. But it seems like they've got a bunch of guys that they feel like, hey, they could be a good guard. They're just thin at tackle.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of wondering right now is, how with, and let's be honest, I don't expect Adoga to be back anytime soon. He
keeps getting banged up.
He keeps getting banged up, and and you're worried about, like, okay, back spasms, now the toe. That'll probably keep him out for a while. But I just wonder how they're going to try and navigate, because I'm all about Guyton getting every one of those reps. A week ago, I was, after the blue-white scrimmage, I was like, please let him play every single snap at left tackle and figure this thing out. And then he got the chest, the pneumonia, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, oh, damn, this hurts me right now, of him not getting practice. But, man, I thought he was pretty darn good with the opportunities that he did have.
Yeah, I thought Guyton was – so he had his one drive at the end of the first quarter, then he was out, and then he came back at the start of the second half. Yeah. And I definitely thought, Zach and I were going back and watching some of it in between commercial breaks. The second drive he came back, there was a lot of hands on the hips and just like big breaths. Like you could tell he was a little he was winded. I thought the first drive he got it, but he may have kind of poured it all out on the field that first drive, because he on that second one didn't get embarrassed, wasn't on the ground a lot or anything, but just definitely looked tired.
Let me ask you this. Any of these tight ends, because we saw a big waggle boot game today. Span forward, anybody do anything for you? I mean, I'll say this. I felt like the one pass they threw to Schoonmaker went through his hands. I know it was a contested play, but it looked like he could have made the catch, which was bothersome to me. But Stevens, Span forward, any one of these tight ends stand out for you a little bit?
Yeah, not so much today. I mean, we've talked about it. I've been impressed during training camp with Princeton Fant. Yeah. John Stevens, the very first day we were out in Oxnard, you watch him and he's so smooth the way that he runs. He's that hybrid receiver type. He had a catch today, a third down conversion, I think, where he had that 11-yard pickup. Spanford, another one. No, nobody really popped up, but I mean, it was also a case of nothing on offense really popped. They could not get in sync. There were times where Trey Lance was off the mark with a throw.
Yeah,
and then there were a lot of times. There were a lot of times where he was then on the mark with a throw, and somebody would drop it. So it was like either Trey Lance was off and the receivers didn't have a shot, or Trey Lance was like, "Hey, give me a shot." He puts the ball on target, and somebody drops it, or somebody's not able to finish the catch, and that was something that I think was frustrating. The Racey McMath stuff. Ryan Flournoy, like those are guys.
That last drive, that was frustrating, because Lance definitely, it seemed like he had clicked in. And he finally was playing some good football, playing with some confidence. He was on target with the throws. Before, you're right. I mean, some of these, you mentioned the catch.
He made the receivers have to work a lot.
Nothing looked clean. Nothing looked smooth.
Yeah, for sure.
But you mentioned the tight end, John Stevens Jr., 3 for 3. 3 targets, 3 catches, 19 yards. Same thing, Brevin Spanford, 2 for 2. 2 catches, 13 yards.
Spanford,
the blocking is the thing for me. Like, I want to see, is he moving people off the ball? He seems like he should be the best blocker.
Yeah, he's the one guy that's got the size. But how many guys are they going to keep at tight end? I mean, where do you consider Hunter Lipke a running back, fullback, or do you consider him like an H? What position group is he going to fall under?
Yeah.
That's what I think they're going to have to figure out too.
Anything else before we let you out of here, Bob?
I do think that it's important to point out, because there were a lot of people who were complaining about it again on social media. I think Brian's right. That first drive, I saw stuff from Mozzie Smith that impressed me. And again, as it wore along, another one looked like he was getting tired and worn out. I think he had to leave.
That's Mozzie Smith.
Yeah, he had to leave. He had to leave in the middle of that third drive, and he never came back on the field. But you watched him. He made a nice play in the screen game. There was the very first play where Nealon flashed. I thought Nealon was good on that first drive.
Sure,
the first play where Nealon flashed, like Mozzie Smith did a good job, keeping him at the point of attack. And so I think that Mozzie Smith, when we turn on the tape, I think we're going to go back and watch and think. I think Mozzie's going to grade out positively, but I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway.
His conditioning. It happened in the Rams scrimmage the other day. The more he plays, the worse his stance gets, and the worse he does coming off the football.
Mm-hmm.
And when he gets tired, he's got to learn to fight through these things. But I felt like that he had some squareness to his game. I felt like he got off the ball pretty decently a couple of different times. So. Yeah, that's the first. When I throw on defensive tape late tonight or tomorrow morning early, that is the first spot I am looking at, because I want to make sure that I saw what I saw.
And if you're seeing a guy, start to get winded, especially in the preseason, and a guy that they need and that needs to prove himself in Mozzie, I mean, aren't you playing him more? Don't you want to see him?
I was, like I said, somebody came up with this. I don't know if it's David Hellman. Somebody came up with the whole idea of, hey, isn't Mozzie Smith like Trey Lance?
Yeah.
Doesn't he need to play?
I think so.
And I was kind of like, wow, that's a pretty damn good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mozzie
honestly, Smith, he needs to play.
I get it. You don't have CeeDee Lamb right now, but Jalen Tolbert's another guy I would have liked to have seen. He's had a hell of a camp, but it's not like Jalen Tolbert solidified himself as a bona fide NFL stud.
Cropper looked good.
He did. Cropper looked very, very good. Yeah. Bobby, thank you so much, buddy.
I love you all.
Our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, brought to you by the National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org. That's Bryan Broaddus. I'm Zach Wolchuk. We'll continue the official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Football is back, 13-12. Rams get preseason game number 1, a last-second touchdown to beat the Cowboys 13-12. We got your phone calls. Jim, Mark, Hakeem, I see you on hold. We'll get to you shortly. 877-881-1053. Dallas Cowboys football. We'll continue in a moment.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill.
They win the people they hire or the community they build. Bell Nunley is behind every great company. Go to bellnunley.com to learn more.
2nd and 9, and Bennett back with the snap. Oh, he's hit hard. First sack of the night. And Jason Johnson got that one. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right.
13-12 Rams over the Cowboys, but football is back, and we couldn't be more excited. The official postgame show of your Dallas Cowboys rolls on. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And right now we welcome on your voice of the Cowboys, the great Brad Sham. Brad, how are you? Football's back.
I'm okay. I'm good, Zach. You know, are you not really alongside Brian, though, are you?
No. Technically, Brian's an Oxnard.
Spiritually, certainly you are. But
yeah. I'm looking at him.
Weather's way better where Brian is.
Way better. I'm actually very jealous.
Way better.
Yeah, I'll see you in 2 hours.
Sounds good, sir. For that police escort, for sure.
Yeah.
Brad, I don't know if anything on the field was more impressive than your partner, Babe Laufenberg. He had the crystal ball working tonight. He calls the Eric Scott interception and then the game winner from Bennett.
That's who I'm working with. You know, that's why I've lasted this long. I've got a guy who can do that, and we don't keep track of the ones that he predicts and misses, but he got those two, and I was happy for Scott, who I thought had a really up and down night before that. But yeah, that's what, frankly, Zach, I've come to expect from Babe Laufenberg. When he doesn't do that once or twice a game, I'm a little disappointed.
You know, Brad, a lot of the focus will be on Trey Lance, and we get the opportunity to study Trey Lance, whether this evening or tomorrow when we get the opportunity to watch the tape, and we'll have a better understanding. But kind of felt like, just my observation, the accuracy at times there, other times making receivers work. But it kind of goes to what we've seen in training camp a little bit. Some of the balls have, not been on target. Some of the balls have been on target. And I think Mike McCarthy said it to you in your pregame discussion. He was looking for that consistency. That's still going to be something we're always going to try and look with Trey Lance. Am I right about that?
Well, I think certainly at this point. I mean, he's played one game now in 2 years, and this was it. So I think it'll be really significant how he does next Saturday.
Right.
Does he show improvement? He doesn't have to, he doesn't have to look like Joe Montana. He just has to look better than he did in the areas that you're mentioning. I thought there were some good things. I thought obviously his running was really good. I thought his pocket awareness was pretty good. A couple of times where he very subtly moved in the pocket, sidestep pressure, moved up to the front of the pocket, was able to get the throw off. I mean, that to me is impressive. But obviously he didn't throw the ball real well, and you don't know what kind of routes they were giving him. But when they were down there, maybe I don't know if it was the last time they had the ball, I so badly wanted him to throw a screen pass to Pete.
Yes,
because he could have run all day, but they did throw a couple of screens. I mean, I thought it wasn't horrible, it wasn't great, and there was a lot to work with, a lot of great coaching points, and I think now that's what this preseason's for, as you know, Brian. So now we'll see how he improves next week.
You mentioned Nathaniel Pete. Anything stand out to you when it came to the running game, whether it was the offensive line or the running back group?
Brian, Zach just mentioned that we'll get. I think we will get an opportunity maybe tonight to get our hands on it. And so, the key thing for me in the running game is what happened up front. I mean, Guyton had limited snaps. I think he did pretty good.
Yeah.
With the limited snaps he had, I really, really want to watch BB at center. I think he got almost 2 quarters there, maybe a little bit more.
Yep.
So I want to see how that looked. I thought Dowdle had a good run. I thought Davis did a couple of good things, maybe not quite as, it's hard to say till you see what kind of holes he was working with. They were, as you guys heard Mike McCarthy say on the pregame show, they're just really excited about the improvements Malik Davis has made, and I don't know if we saw all of that in this game, but that'll be something to keep an eye on. But for me, it's the watching the offensive line to see how they did, and we can't know that till we look at it.
Yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to myself. That's the one thing. My favorite thing about preseason football is watching tape. It really, really is. I think the games are good, but then watch the games, and you can learn even more when you're doing that. And we have the opportunity.
The games aren't always good.
Yeah, the games aren't always good, but when you get to watch the tape, you kind of do figure some things out.
Yes.
But I was listening to you, Brad Sham, talk about Marquise Bell. And I'm wondering about Marquise Bell because there's times in practice where I don't always notice Marquise Bell. But every time he plays in a football game, I notice Marquise Bell. Is a gamer situation here or a guy that just, he's just like he's one of these guys that you have to put out there because he is going to make plays for you?
I think you know way better than I do how a guy like that can look in practice sometimes is going to be mandated by what the offense is doing. What's the purpose of this drill?
Right.
And as we saw, and McCarthy has said it, I don't know how many times, the first 8 practices were installation practices.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much opportunity he would have had in practice to show what he showed today. Today, I thought he showed some of the stuff that Dan Quinn liked enough to put him at linebacker,
right?
Except back where he belongs,
right,
at safety. And so I can envision him in as a blitzing safety from time to time. And
yes,
Stetson Bennet didn't play well, but Marquise made a really good play on that ball. I think he's he's probably their third safety, and I think that he's very valuable. And I was really encouraged. I thought he was the best player on the field for him today.
He had 9 tackles, led the team in tackles. I mean, the linebacking group overshown. It seems like every time he's on the field, he's flashing 3 tackles. Willie Harvey with 3. Obviously, Kendricks didn't play, but in terms of year over year, Brad, that linebacker room might be the most improved position on the team.
Yeah, it's so different because there's 2 things that occur to me, and Babe and I didn't get a chance to talk about it much. One is I think their personnel is better than the linebacker personnel that Dan had to work with last year. He didn't have Overshown. He did not have the middle linebacker. Not that he wanted him, but he didn't have him. You had Bell playing linebacker, which he's not. So, and what's interesting to me, Zach, is that they brought in 2 more linebackers last week.
Yeah.
And they both played today, and the one, Nick
Vigil. Vigil.
Yeah.
Okay. Vigil.
And he's a guy who's played for Mike, and Zimmer likes him,
mm-hmm.
and he's a smart player, special teams. So they obviously keep churning the players at linebacker, but the room. Here's the thing, based on what I'm seeing now, I don't know what'll happen. I just think defensive tackle's a big problem. I know Babe.
Yeah.
Babe didn't want to go there with you in the pregame, and he and I don't see that the same way.
Sure.
But I think that's a big problem. However, the scheme change and the vast improvement in the linebacking group might make up for some of that. Because if with the scheme change, I don't care how many tackles Mozzie Smith has. If he ties up 2 guys so Overshown can go get a tackle, then that is a plus play. And I think there's a chance that some of that will happen. I still think that there will be maybe a defensive tackle who's not here now on the team by the time we get to September 8th. But I think that in evaluating them, Zach, I think you have to evaluate them in not only in terms of the improved players, but also how, with the scheme change, they fit and potentially enhance things. And I think I'm somewhat hopeful about that.
Yeah, Brad, I didn't feel like just TV scouting this afternoon. I was watching Mozzie early, and I saw squareness. Usually when Mozzie's bad, I see the 5 and the 8 because that means he's getting turned, And I didn't see that happen to him today. Where I think Mozzie has his issues is his conditioning. I think there's times that he gets wore down, and if he can improve that, because he had a couple of plays where he was extending on the blocker, he did get off the ball, he was playing square. It's just that, man, I was like, come on, man, just keep playing, just keep playing, just keep playing. And then he finds himself out of the lineup. You know, him.
Yeah, the thing is, you're 100% right, of course. Yeah. And obviously, what was he on the field at the last game of last year? 2 snaps, 3 snaps. So that's not what you want. But if fans will not expect big statistics from him, he did not draft himself in the first round.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
that is true.
So what I think we've seen is that he has a chance, and you can tell me that I'm not seeing it right, but I think what we've seen is he has a chance to be a useful player. Do you want more than a useful player in your first pick? Sure, but as you point out so well during draft season, Brian, where did they draft him? 20-something?
Yeah, 27th, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and how many first-round grades did they have? 17 or 18?
Yeah, usually somewhere between 18 and 20. So, yeah, it's a second-round grade.
Right.
You know, but
he just happens to be drafted in the first round. If they draft him in the second round and he's the exact same player, people look at him differently. But because he went to the same school as Taco Charlton, and he's not getting a lot of stats and blah, blah, blah. And he did. I'm not trying to make excuses. He did not have a good rookie year.
He's a capable football player. He really is. We just need him to be good. Mm-hmm. Don't need him to be great. Just need him to be good.
And don't you think we see the potential for that?
Yes,
I do. And that's what makes me sick sometimes. That I do see a guy that okay, that's what I saw when you were playing Purdue or playing Ohio State or playing against Michigan State. That's what I saw, and when it turns into, good play, and then 3 or 4 plays of, no, don't fall apart on me now. I just the word consistency for all these young players is really all you're asking for right now.
100%. And some of the guys they drafted last year. Schoonover's in kind of the same boat. He had injuries.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, Schoonmaker. Yeah. I know I'm going to call him Schoonover all his life. Schoonmaker's in the same. He's in the same boat. In order to develop consistency, you got to be on the field.
Got to be able to play.
Yes, I still think Schoonmaker's got the chance to be a good player. Is he going to be Jason Witten? No, but I think that he's got a chance to be a good player. But he just needs to be out there. I think he's got a skill set. Now, as the season goes along, if 81 continues to develop,
Stevens,
then maybe Schoonmaker's the third tight end. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's what these games are for. And with guys, especially guys, and don't forget, we do. I know I forget because it didn't get any attention or publicity. But Mozzie had some surgery in the off season.
He did.
So he couldn't just work on conditioning and technique in the offseason. He had to rehab a surgery. Yeah. Shoulder, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Unfortunate, yeah.
Yeah, so here's the guy. He's got to have his shoulders to make his living.
Sure does, yeah.
So I think patience with Mozzie is called for. I think that we'd be well advised sometime in October to revisit this, see where he is, and see if he's been a useful player. And if he turns out to be a useful player, then that's fine. Because, again, he did not draft himself in the first round.
Brad, thank you so much for the time. As always, look forward to catching up with you again next week.
All right, boys. Have a good week.
You too. There he goes. The voice of your Cowboys, the legendary Brad Sham, brought to you by WinStar. As the casino of the Dallas Cowboys, WinStar knows what it means to be a star. With over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games, the all-new 2-story WinStar Spa and Cascades, their luxury pool complex, WinStar really is the place to feel like a star. Please game responsibly. Post-game show rolls on. Rams 13, Cowboys 12, but football's back. Preseason game 1 in the books. We look ahead to next week, but we will take some of your calls and texts, 877-881-1053. Appreciate everybody who's been waiting on hold. We'll get to you. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
You don't want to miss the next Dallas Cowboys touchdown just because.
at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now Lance in, Cooper back to throw, deep ball left, Jalen Brooks. at the 15-yard line. One-on-one coverage by Cameron McCutcheon, a rookie, and Jalen Brooks with a big play. And that's 43 yards and a first down.
Biggest play from scrimmage offensively for the Cowboys as Cooper Rush hits Jalen Brooks. One of his 2 catches for 49 yards led to a Brandon Aubrey 30-yard field goal to tie the score at 3. That is our What a Play of the game, brought to you by WinStar. As the casino of the Dallas Cowboys, WinStar knows what it means to be a star with over 10,000 of your favorite electronic games. The all-new 2-story WinStar Spa and Cascades, their luxury pool complex. WinStar really is the place to feel like a star. Please game responsibly. And AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk with Bryan Broaddus. Yep, what's up, buddy?
Man, you and Peyton deciding the Whataburger play of the game without me?
That actually wasn't even me getting to choose that one. You know who got to choose that one?
Who was that, Bobby?
Bobby Belt.
Bobby Belt chose that one. Okay.
Bobby Belt got to choose all of our benchmarks, Brian, today. We got left out of this conversation.
Yeah, we got left out. They don't care much about you and I, but we'll make them think differently next time.
It's okay. You know, I feel like usually we do a good job of putting in time and effort and thought into these. But Bobby got that honor today.
Did I see Brandon Aubrey rushing out of the stadium about to have a baby?
I think so. I think that Brandon Aubrey had to, he was already showered, had his backpack, was getting out of there because, they're having a baby. Congratulations to them.
Back in Dallas? Are we flying home quick?
That's a great question. Maybe. I know what that feels like, having to rush home pretty quick.
You were sitting next to me when we were booking airline flights to try and get you back home.
Yeah, you went into full down.
As we land, we're booking flights to go back home.
I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So I hope the Aubrey family wish them all the best.
Yeah.
Of course, he's also part of my alma mater, Plano Senior High. Go Wildcats there. Shout out to Brandon Aubrey. We do have some calls, 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Shout out to those who have waited patiently on hold. Let's go to our buddy Jim in Round Rock, the first of many calls from Jim during the postgame show this year. What's going on, brother?
Well, Wolchuk Brothers, it's good to have you back on the post game. Of course, I love you during the week.
Thank you.
Man, I tell you, I felt like I was prepared to watch this game because y'all do a good job of preparing us through the week. A couple of things I noticed, and I've been able to go back and watch some of the game film, of course. You don't get to see a whole lot, but the scheme on defense is a lot better. It's just better. Their run fits are better. They're lining up, and I think there's probably something to what Brad was saying, and probably even Babe in the pregame about those linebackers. There wasn't a lot of over pursuit. There's more of them in the box for us. That's one thing. But I was very pleased. Went back and watched Mozzie. Brian is using his hands a little bit more. That's one of the things. It's just not trying to power over people. He's using his hands. That little screenplay was good. So I thought it was. Look, I thought that it's just good to have football back. I think that's the biggest thing. The last time we talked on a post game, good Lord, boys, we were all sick as dogs.
Yeah.
But no, I thought they looked good, and they'll get better. I think there's plenty of things that they can go in and clean up. But I think very pleased with the offensive line. But I think the biggest thing is Brian, you said it when he's hired. This is going to be a different defense. It's going to be a different approach, and I think they're going to line up and they're going to stop the run. And we got the horses in the defensive backfield to make things happen. So, fellas, it's good to talk to you, and boy, I appreciate the joy y'all bring us. And Brian, you're doing such a good job out there in California. I hope you just don't decide to stay out there. We got to get you back in Dallas. Have a good one, and we'll talk later this week.
Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate you. Yeah, Brian, you've been such a wealth of knowledge. There's very few people that know Mike Zimmer as well as you.
I love Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer and I would fight. Fight in the early 2000s, and in a good way. And I have the utmost respect for Mike. I know how important this is to him. He wants to come in here. He's a quality defensive coach. He's been loyal to the Jones family for a long time. They gave him an opportunity, as a young coach, and then he became a coordinator and a solid head coach. But this is important to him, and he's got some good players. They've got this linebacker room where at least it's going the right direction. We'll see with Tank, playing the one end. We really like Nealon playing on the right side. You figure out what's going on. Osa, get him to play, more than 14 games for you. They'll figure things out. And if they can get this, you get Diggs back and these others, this safety group, I mean, they've got the capability of being a good defense, because this defensive coordinator, he will make sure that they're ready to play. And just watching his coaches, I really like Al Harris. I really like Jeff Zagina, what he's done, with the linebackers and stuff like that. I mean, they've done a nice job with these guys just in watching practice and the physicality and their ability not to make huge mistakes in the game. So hopefully that'll carry over into the season.
And you didn't see a whole lot of scheme. It was pretty basic today. But, I mean, just in practice, you can even hear it from the offensive players.
Oh,
the
man,
disguises. I mean, this thing, it's very different from what we've seen. Dan Quinn did an excellent job, but Mike Zimmer certainly adding his own wrinkles to this thing. And the way that he's going to use Mike, I'm very excited about as well.
Yeah, he realizes he has a rare player in Micah Parsons, but he's also got some guys that can really step up. Like I said, this Marshawn Nealon, I didn't expect, and I know Wolchuk, you looked like 200 players like I did. I kind of felt like that, man, really good run defender.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the pass rush? Where's the bend? There's something that he did between the time he was drafted till the time he's played today in this game, where he worked on his quickness, his burst, his ability to bend, his flexibility. I mean, he probably said, hey, if I'm going to do this, I've got to kind of come up with some – I thought he was going to be just a guy that was going to rush down the middle and try and power everybody. But he's got some ability to get off the ball and affect the pocket. And I like what he's been able to do so far here. And, you miss Sam Williams, because of the depth, but – I don't know if Sam Williams plays the run as well as this guy does.
No,
this guy, if he could rush the passer, he doesn't have to be as good as Sam Williams rushing the passer, but if he could give you a little bit of some burst off that edge, that sure will help things.
And love the reps that he got today. Looked really, really good, specifically, as you mentioned, in the run game. Also just looked so much bigger than I thought he looked on tape.
Yeah. Exactly.
He really, and Nick Harris told me that when he saw him out there at the Senior Bowl. I had some draft show fans that were like, "No, Nealon's pretty big, man." I'm like, I just got to go with what my eyes telling me, but he is, man. Marshawn Nealon's got some size to him now. All right, Hakeem, I see you on hold, brother. We will come back. We will take your call, more of your calls and text 877-881-1053. Football's back, and it feels so good. Rams 13, Cowboys 12, preseason game number 1 in the books. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Is your workplace on top of its game? For over 100 years, Pollock Aurora has been taking care of business, improving their
and great happy hour and late night offerings. There isn't a better place to be on Fridays this season than at a Buffalo Wild Wings sports bar near you.
Still at the Dallas 19. Snap to Bennett. Lots of time. Deep to the middle, intercepted again. At the 10 by Eric Scott. Babe calls the play. Scott makes it on the field and runs it out of bounds. Pushed out by offensive lineman Zach Thomas. 2 turnovers for Dallas.
Big interception there for Eric Scott, and he needed it. He was struggling earlier in the football game, gave up a big completion for a first down, missed a tackle, got flagged, but he came up with a big one there after Babe Laufenberg said, just wait for it. Eric Scott going to make the play here. He did. Saved points, kept him off the board. That is our defensive stand of the game, brought to you by Reliant, an NRG company. Postgame show also brought to you by Blockchain. Trust the team at blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with blockchain.com. 13-12 Rams rally to beat the Cowboys in week 1 of the preseason. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. And speaking of that secondary, Brian, we did get a text, 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. Akeem, we'll get to your call here in just a second. Appreciate your patience, sir. But the 682, Dirk and Allen, a question for you, Brian.
Yeah.
Since you've been out at camp, no disrespect to Dan Quinn, but do you think Al Harris has been the bigger reason for the success of the secondary?
I'll tell you what, Al Harris is a badass. And I say that in a way that you never hear him, but you always see him coaching. You know, he's not a yeller, screamer, that kind of. He gets into every single rep. When they go one-on-one and stuff, they're on the red zone, tight red zone, and now they're having to cover and carry. And Al is playing the back line like he's the safety. But he sees it all, the motions, he's helping his guys, he's just kind of orchestrating a lot of things. I think he's a damn good coach.
Yeah.
And he was a damn good player. And, these guys, I was kind of thinking like, okay, well, all those guys left to go to the Commanders. Al, I think the Cowboys caught a break by Al not going with Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn probably made a mistake there.
Yeah,
good for the Cowboys. And I'm saying that because I watch these defensive backs, the drills, the way they respond to him and stuff like that. He's a no stone unturned guy. He's not, when there's a mistake on the field, he's immediately handling it. It's not like, okay, we'll coach that up when we get back over here in the dining hall and have a meeting. No, they're like, if there's something happens, him and Zimmer are handling it right then and there on the field. And I appreciate that about him.
One of the best young coaches in the sport.
Good question, by the way.
Absolutely.
682 on that one, on the question. Who was it?
Yep, that was the 682, our guy, Dirk and Allen.
Dirk, nice question. Yeah, it's a good question.
Let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
This is the exclusive home of Dallas Cowboys football. KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas, Fort Worth. Let's go, Cowboys.
An Odyssey station.
All right, let's go out to Hakeem in Frisco. I thank you so much for your patience, sir. I know you've been waiting a while. Hakeem, what's going on, man? You're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, guys, it was good. It's good that the closing ceremonies are on, so I can watch the closing ceremonies on mute and listen to postgame as well for the Olympics. So all good. Plus, it's good to have a distraction from the Olympics, as I've been watching that for the past couple of weeks, like everybody else. Watch the game. So you guys completely stole my thunder, man. I was going to say that I thought the best position group tonight was definitely the defensive backs. And you can see, like you were mentioning, Brian, you can see Al Harris on the sideline. When somebody makes a reception, he's like, damn it, why did that guy?
Oh,
you can see that. So for me, that's my comment. Here's my question. It's a two-part question. Number one, it surrounds. So at the end of the 53-man cut, there's always some guys from other teams who get cut. And usually there's 1 to 3 guys. We're like, oh, I don't know if they're going to survive this cut. So I guess my question is, is it easy to say, hey, we're definitely going to be in the market for a defensive tackle based on the cut market? Or, this is kind of my second question, do you see us possibly bringing back a Curse or maybe even a Gilmore, or those more in-season moves if need be, Daboob need to have? So that's my question in regards to the final 53 and whether we're going to have those 1 to 3 spots available, hopefully for some more D tackles. Let me know your thoughts, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah, those are good questions. First off, if they haven't changed the rules on me, if you're a veteran and you're on the roster in week 1, your salary's guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see a lot of teams bring guys on, veteran players, week 2, to where their salary is not guaranteed. I think the rules are still that way. They like
I think
to
they are.
change
I think
the
you're right.
rules on me all the time. So that might keep you from doing that. The defensive tackle group, I kind of feel like that they're looking, and one thing that they do here, and when I was in pro personnel, we did the same thing. You really hunt the other teams. Like you might go to games. The pro guys might not be at their game, but like the Cowboys, but they might be with the Giants, or they might be with the Eagles, or they might be with the Buccaneers. You're going to chase teams that you think have surplus at certain positions, whether it's defensive tackle, running back. You want to follow those teams and see how that's progressing for them. They had an opportunity to add the young man from the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
That was a player for player, money for money. That one worked out. Dallas picked up like $400,000 more of they on their cap, but here they take a look at a guy that was a second round pick. I'm sure that when they were looking at when they were making these deals, it's like Minnesota's like, well, hey, we're going to move on, and Dallas is like, Nation, right? We've done enough. We're going to move on, and so you have two teams that do that. But I am definitely looking at teams with defensive tackles, and. Hell, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can get a one technique out of this thing. I don't. I know there's guys on the street that we've talked about. I don't know if they'll go that route. We brought up the point about the linebackers being really, really good.
And clean up some of that.
But I'd like to see, man. I do believe that they're and we'll see with Mozzie. I believe they're a one technique, maybe away from being like a pretty good defense.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, the way that they've upgraded linebacker, it's so exciting. Your second. I mean, if Diggs can come back and be close to what he was pre-injury, you feel great about him and Bland. Jordan Lewis has had a fantastic camp as a slot corner. The safeties, they've got a lot of versatility there. I do wonder, like running back, we've assumed that they're going to be looking at the running back market.
I think that, yeah, and it's a lot of it has to do with, okay, to me, they are really, it's almost like they're McCarthy stands up here at the podium where I'm looking at right now, and he talks about Malik Davis all the time. And now I'm wondering, like, okay, and they did the same thing with Brock Hoffman. They kept telling us, like, they kept saying, well, hey, yeah, Cooper Beebe. And then it's like, well, have you seen this Brock Hoffman play? Have you seen Brock Hoffman? How about Brock Hoffman? Have you guys ever looked at Brock? I kind of getting that vibe that Mike's setting us up for Malik Davis to make this team, where it's Zeke, it's Dowdle, it's Davis, and it's Hunter Lipke.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to happen with Deuce Vaughn. I don't know what's going to happen with Deuce Vaughn. And I don't know if Deuce Vaughn's not practicing. And you know what? Deuce Vaughn might be a guy that you can kind of, sometimes I say don't get cute sliding guys through waivers. But Deuce Vaughn might be a guy that you could slide through waivers and teams are like, we're not going to take a short back. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. So maybe the way it works out that, we'll see with Deuce Vaughn, but he does need to practice. It's like Flournoy needed to practice.
Yep.
And he got out there and got some work today.
Yeah, it's a bummer with that hamstring injury for Deuce, not getting any work in. But certainly, maybe we can get to see him next week when they take on the Raiders. We'll put a bow on this one. We'll look ahead to that matchup against the Raiders next week, which will be a late kick, 9 o'clock Central Time.
Oh, for you it'll be late, not for me.
Not for you, Mr. Oxnard, California. It'll be nice and 7 o'clock and breezy for you.
Might have to put on a wrap, you know.
You
might. Have to wear a little wrap at night.
Bundle up. You'll get a little chilly there.
Might get a little chilly on the tennis court.
877-881-1053. More of your questions as we roll on with the post-game show. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
The Texas Lottery presents Now That's What I Call Hits, with hit songs like Give Me That.
Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. The islands of the Bahamas. Fly away. Jackpot.com. The Powerball jackpot continues to grow. Buy your Powerball tickets now on jackpot.com. And by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys.
3rd down and 6 for the Rams, left to right. Snap to Stetson Bennet, looking around, throwing deep middle, intercepted at the 45-yard line by Marquise Bell.
There is our player of the game, brought to you by Jack Black. Want to use with the pros? Use Jack Black as the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit getjackblack.com today. Boy, Marquise Bell was all over the field. Had that interception, led the team with 9 tackles. He was brilliant. Now, Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. Player of the game, billboard that was selected by Bobby Belt. How do you think he did with that one? Would we have chosen the same?
Yeah, I think Bell was in strong consideration if you just look at statistics and how he played, and probably could have had 2 interceptions this game.
Could have.
I mean, that first drive there, Bennett, he was trying to, Bennett in the middle of the field was a disaster. My gosh, I mean, everything to the middle of the field was just a poor throw for him. But hey, good for Bell. I'm just happy that Bell is getting an opportunity to show what he can do, because like we were talking about earlier, I wanted to see him. I know he could play down in the box among the sequoias, the big trees, but now I want to see him cover on the back end and see the whole field. And there's times out here where you're going, okay,
yeah,
okay, but in a game it's wow, man, Bell making another tackle,
in position.
Bell making another. Bell put himself, yeah. So you're happy with that for him, that he's playing at that kind of a level.
All right, one last one to pay off. Let's get our drive of the game, Peyton Russell.
Dallas at its 39, still Davis to the right of Lance. Back to throw. He runs out to the left, got a lot of room. Throws on the run, got a man down at the 45-yard line. Up at the 45-yard line, and a nice catch by David Durden.
I believe that was a 12-play, 52-yard drive, sets up a Brandon Aubrey field goal. And, that was one of those where when you don't have touchdowns in the game, and they almost did. I mean, I really felt like that last Trey Lance drive, that was the one that would have been our drive of the game. They get that in the end zone.
Yeah, McMath, unfortunately, and it's like he dropped the first one, and then he fought the second one. You could tell that it was one of those, oh, geez, I dropped it. Oh, I'm worrying, and now I have a chance, and you're kind of fighting it. You're like, you're Terrence Williams body catching it. You're caught in between. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the kind of stuff that you can't have happen. You make 1 or 2 of those catches, now you're continually driving the ball, and maybe this is a different game. I know it's a preseason game. I always wanted to win preseason games. I did.
It's the competitor.
I did. I wanted to win.
And want to win it.
I kind of got mad at Mike McCarthy for throwing the fade down there on the, early, and then he went for it a couple of different times, and then I'm like, wait a minute, you're going to make this guy kick a 65-yard field goal? What kind of game management's this? But like you said, it's preseason, so it's okay.
13-12. Rams get the win as we put a bow.
It's not really okay.
No, it's not.
Okay.
You know what? Coach's preseason form as well. Trial and error here.
Yeah.
Trying to knock off some rust. Before we put a bow on this one, let's head out to Quinlan. We got our guy Kenny. Kenny and Quinlan, what's going on, man? What up?
So what I'm hearing, guys, is that we're going to go another year with Mozzie. And our running back situation doesn't sound good at all. And, I mean, it just doesn't sound good. So what can we do here, guys?
Well, look, I mean, when it comes to Mozzie, I do think Brad Sham illustrated a good picture of the importance of some patience there.
Yeah, there's some folks that aren't too happy with the discussion we had of Mozzie. When you say Mozzie doesn't need to be great, there's people like, no, we drafted him to be better than. There's some great players that got drafted, so you want him to be better than. I just want a consistent player. Mm-hmm. I want somebody that when he plays a series, if he plays 3 plays, 2 of the 3 plays are, okay, Mozzie was a factor. I mean, a factor of holding up a block, or they're not running through Mozzie, or he's pushing the pocket, Mozzie. That's what I want. I mentioned with the Rams, this Tyler Davis.
Sure.
I meant, Tyler Davis, if that was Mozzie Smith, I would be elated to what we saw from Tyler Davis with the Rams. And I think that Rodgers is trying to do some things. I think he's trying to do some things. But I just worry about the like I say, with Mozzie, it's all about the consistency. It's about he has a successful play, and then he'll have 3 plays where he's a non-factor. I need him to be of the 2. I need him to be of 3 plays. I need 2 of them to be good. And I understand why people are mad. They're like, hey, he was drafted in the first damn round. Where he fell, it's probably a second-round grade. But that doesn't matter. You drafted him to play defensive tackle in this league. And they haven't drafted a one technique to do that in a long time. And Will McClay, he laid it up on the table on that one. We've all seen the video.
Mm-hmm.
We've all seen the video of like, hey, this is our guy. This is our guy. And so, Will has faith in this guy. I'm sure he has faith, still has faith in him, but, they just need him to, they need him to get that consistency. I keep saying that, and I apologize to everybody out there, but he's a flash player, and there's nothing worse than a flash player, because the flash player will flash, and you're like, well, hey, look at that. Look at that.
He can do it.
Yeah,
it's there.
It's there.
But you're absolutely right, and it is a position, to your point, where you just hope that's not the one that holds them back from being a really, really good defense. Yeah. And to the point of like who's out there, I mean, like, some names that we've mentioned before. Linval Joseph's a free agent. Yeah. He's got ties to Zimmer and to Paul Gunther, of course.
That might be after the first week. We've talked about guaranteed contracts. You might have to go out and get this guy right off the jump.
Yeah,
just to make sure of that. But yeah, it's right now. They need some guys to step up.
They do.
Yeah.
And I like what we've seen from Justin Rogers. 7th round pick, shows a little bit of upside. I was impressed by Carl Davis tonight.
Yeah.
Carl Davis seems like he's gotten better. So I mean, we'll have to watch the film, see every preseason game, see the snaps progress. And to Kenny's question about the running back, when we addressed it a little bit, there was a report this week. Maybe a cap casualty could be a Miles Sanders in Carolina. Dalvin Cook's a guy has been linked. I mean. Yeah. But they do keep talking up Malik Davis, which makes me wonder, do they have their 4 guys that they want, included Hunter Lipke?
Yeah, they are. It's the Mike Solari phenomenon where, hey, it's Brock Hoffman. Yeah, hey, really excited, coach, that you drafted, Cooper Beebe. Love to see plug and play. Let's go. Well, we got this Brock Hoffman guy here. And you're like going, well, hey, Cooper Beebe, boy, and you're getting all excited. And Cooper Beebe has played better, but Brock Hoffman is going to be the starting center unless something happens for the Cleveland Brown game. I think it's going to happen, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's trending in that direction. Did get a text from the 520 if we could give our thoughts on Kalen Carson, how he played today. I just remember him getting beat inside on one play. Now, again, like schematically, they're not doing the same stuff that they even did in practice, where he's been able to be fantastic. I'm not going to put a practice player label on him like the 520 asks, is that what he is? But nothing really stood out to me like super positive or negative about Kalen Carson.
I think he ended up with 5 tackles.
He did.
Yeah. So that's a positive. I mean, now, is he end up with 5 tackles as they're all down the field making catches, or is he coming up and making tackles and they're at the line of scrimmage or gain of 2 or 3? I like the fact. I think the kid is a hell of a player. I don't think he's just a practice player. I think he's super competitive. And trust me, the more they throw him into the game, I'm all for it. Just keep throwing him out there. Just keep throwing him out there and letting him get experience. Because I think they're going to need 4 or 5 cornerbacks in this season. And I think he needs to be one of them. And so tape will come, and it'll be like, oh, that wasn't good. Oh, that wasn't good. Then maybe tomorrow, like you say, when you and I do our show, we'll have a better understanding. Like, okay, this is what needs to be better next week.
Yeah. And look, I mean, maybe we will, to your point, we go back, we look at it. 5-2-0, feels like he got burned a little bit. First NFL game I remember a year ago there might have been a co-host of ours that wanted to write off C.J. Stroud after a bad preseason week 1. Well, look what happened with C.J. Stroud. So I don't, with these rookie players, I think we like a lot of what we've seen from Kalen Carson in practice and on the draft film. Still very high on the player, but we do need to, we'll go back and study the film. We'll have an update for you.
Yeah.
And, of course, we'll continue the conversation next week, partner. I'm excited to do it as week 1 in the books. Now we look forward to the Vegas Raiders next week. Apparently, Antonio Pierce is supposed to name his starting quarterback after the game. So is it going to be Aiden O'Connell or is it going to be Gardner Minshew?
Ooh.
Excited. Looking forward to that one.
We'll see it, man. Look forward to it as well.
You got big dinner plans?
No. I'm actually going to see if this tape's in this box. And if it is, I'm going to sit down and watch it.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. We'll have that tomorrow, Krusty's Corner.
I'm by myself out here, man.
I know you are.
I'm waiting for the team to come rolling in here in a minute.
We miss you. We miss you, buddy.
Miss you too, guys.
Thank you very much to Bryan Broaddus. Of course, everybody else who was a part of this one. Eric Chiafalo, Peyton Russell, Larry Flores, Chris Strong. We'll be back next week, 9 o'clock kick. Until then, Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Becky Hammon on being the first woman to coach in the NBA.
What if it's no big deal that I'm a woman?